All right. Hello, folks. We'll wait until everyone jumps on the call before we start, but welcome. Thanks for coming this evening. I am Kyle Seibert. I'm the Family and Parent Engagement Coordinator for the Office of Student Life at IU Bloomington. So appreciate y'all coming on. We still have some more people just joining the call. All right. Yep. Slowly coming in. Hi, everyone. For those of you that are just coming on the call, we're going to start in just a second or two. We're going to wait for everyone to join us. We're joined by Mara Dahlgren, Director of the Student Involvement and Leadership Center, and Dr. Leslie Fasone, who's I'm going to get your title wrong, Leslie, Assistant Dean and Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life. Okay, great. I had flashcards before this, so I was practicing titles to make sure I got it all right. But let's say we give it 30 more seconds, and then we can hand it off to you, Mara. So let's do that.
Sounds great.
And there's Vika. Hello, Vika. We're just waiting on folks to join us, then we're going to start the call. And we're also joined by Dr. Vika Bell Robinson, Associate Vice Provost for Involvement and Belonging for
Yeah,
the Office of Student
although
Life.
I was going to be camera off, but
Okay, well, we're glad that you're here with us. So, okay, Mara, feel free to share the screen. We've got everyone in the room. I think it's leveled off. So, whenever you're ready.
Okay. I feel like every time you're doing this on Zoom, you're trying to figure out how to do everything again, even though you've done this, for years now. Okay, well, welcome everyone. We're excited to be here with you. Uh, we'll jump forward. Kyle did our introductions for you. We're thrilled to be here with you. Thanks for spending your evening with us. We'll share a bit about involvement at IU and ways for your students to get involved. So as Kyle mentioned, we are part of the involvement and belonging area of student life. And we believe that involvement, engagement, belonging are essential to student success. We actually have proof of that. There's tons of research in higher education that shows that students who are involved are more likely to have a higher GPA. They are going to be retained from year to year and then also graduate usually on time or within 5 years. And so involvement is great for their academic career, great for getting out of college sort of in a timely manner. And it also helps them build connection skills, lots of great things that they can use after they graduate. And I likely don't need to describe why getting involved is important, but I'll give you some key points that might be helpful to share with your student. One of them is making a large campus small. IU has over 47,000 students. It can be overwhelming. We have students from all backgrounds. They may be coming from very small schools. Some may be much larger, and this is sort of normal, but it can be overwhelming. And getting involved, particularly in student organizations, different activities, gives you a group of 20, 30, 50 people that know your name, and that would make a difference, that you can say hi to them as you walk to class, and it doesn't feel like you're surrounded by strangers. Involvement also gives the opportunity to explore interests. One of my colleagues across campus always tells students to get involved in 3 different things. One, based on their academic interests or their career aspirations. One, based on maybe their identity, something that's important to them. And then one based on fun or something different. And so I like to think about that one for this one. So this might be the time to try like the knitting club, or there is a squirrel watching club. Some of these just unique, different ones that you wouldn't have thought, like, I want to try this out. Another great reason to get involved is meeting new people, building friendships. Leslie and I work with tons of students, and we know that this builds really deep connections for our students. They make friends that last them throughout college, and then they become alums and they become lifelong friends. And so it's really special relationships built throughout involvement. And then another interesting and unique part about involvement is that it not only builds a network between peers, that builds a network across campus. So we also know in the research that students who know a faculty member or know a staff member are more likely to graduate on time and be retained. They also deepen their involvement on campus. We also have really cool opportunities with a number of our academic areas and our student organizations to build connections with alumni. And we have some pretty cool alumni that interact with our student organizations. I probably shouldn't name drop some of them, but just think of some big names that you've heard about. There may be some places on campus named after them. They are very involved on campus and want to get to know students. So one of the best ways for student involvement is through our student organizations. We have over 800, which is pretty incredible. This picture is from an involvement fair in the past. We just hosted a couple weeks ago, and I would encourage you to talk to your student about the involvement fair if they attended, if they saw any student orgs that they are interested in participating in. If they didn't participate in the involvement fair, that's okay. That is just the beginning stage to getting involved. We host an involvement fair, and then usually the week, 2-3 weeks after, our student organizations will host call-out meetings. And it's kind of an interesting term for our campus. I hadn't encountered this until IU. Call-outs are informational meetings, and it's usually the first meeting and student organization will host and tell students about the organization, what it means to be a member, the purpose, what are the activities, what's the commitment, all of those types of things. So call-outs are still happening right now. Encourage your students to participate in a call-out. You'll see there's a QR code on this page. If you scan that, it'll take you to Be Involved. That is our software for student organizations. So all of our student organizations are listed in Be Involved. The student can search through Be Involved. They can pull up an organization. And if, say, they missed a call out, they can go to the organization page, see if they have any other reoccurring meetings, drop into a meeting, or they can reach out to the organization president or leadership and see how they can get involved. So all is not lost if they miss the involvement fair or a first call out. Here's a picture of that Be Involved page. This is the list of all of our student organizations. You'll see we're in the numbers, so this is alphabetical order. The reason I wanted to show this to you all is to point out the category section. Again, with 800 organizations, this can be overwhelming. So if you click through the categories, you'll see they're broken out by arts and entertainment, multicultural and international organizations, sororities and fraternities. We do have a number of academic specific organizations. So if your student is in the Luddy School of Informatics, you can click Luddy and all the student orgs correlated with that. Academic unit will show up, same with the Kelly School of Business. So lots of different categories for students to search through. And again, if they click that, so you see at the top 180 degrees consulting, you click the top and it will take you to their main page. And once you're on there, you can see who the org leadership is. If they have any events coming up, you'll see if they have meetings in there or a call out. And students can then usually just show up. So if they'll have the location for their meeting, and most organizations are pretty free flow, I'd say. They're not like you have to RSVP to come. If you show up, usually you're invited in and included. So some other opportunities for involvement. I discussed quite a bit about student organizations. Some other great ways are through the residence halls. If your student is living in the residence hall right now, I can guarantee they have more than enough events going on. Each floor hosts events, as well as each residence hall, and then the larger residence halls host events. So there seems to always be something going on in the residence halls. If your student is in a living learning community, I can guarantee they have a number of activities and events going on. And there's also tons of different academic programming going on in the residence halls as well. We have 7 culture centers on our campus. During Welcome Week, all 7 culture centers hosted open house for students to get to know what the culture centers are like, explore their offerings. If your student was able to attend, great. If not, like the involvement fair, we welcome students at any time. And so the culture centers are always open for students throughout the week, and then probably on certain hours on the weekends. And they offer a place for students to hang out, to study, and then also to participate in programs and different services. We also have a number of student organizations that are identity specific and connected to the culture centers. So you can find those on the culture center websites as well. If your student was involved in student council in high school, student governance may be the organization for them. We have a number of different ways for students to get involved in student governance. For our first year students and those living in the residence halls, Residence Hall Association is a great way. We also have sort of student governments for each hall. So they can provide funding support for different hall initiatives in each residence hall. Student government serves all of campus. Kyle is a former past president of student government. And they have representatives from all across campus, from all the different academic units, all the different sort of living communities. So on campus, off campus, sorority and fraternities, the residence halls also, and they provide student voice and input in the university's operation. We also have a number of other student governance roles in academic units. There's advisory boards that give input on how a specific program is operated. If your student has a religious background or faith, we have an organization called Carla. They are the religious leaders for Bloomington. And every Welcome Week, they host Faith Fest for students to explore all the different religious offerings in the community. If your student wasn't able to attend that, again, these communities are open at any point for students to participate and get involved. So I'd recommend checking out the Carla website for all of the faith communities that are here in Bloomington. There are also often a number of student organizations connected to those communities, so they can search those and be involved as well. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I have another slide about working on campus. So I'm going to turn over to Leslie to talk about sororities and fraternities.
All right. Thank you, Mara. So my name is Leslie Fasone. I'm the Assistant Dean for Sorority and Fraternity Life. And so my current role, I work with there should be 71 by the end of the semester, since we have some new groups coming on. We have 71 sororities and fraternities at IU. And excited to kind of share a little bit about that opportunity. I will add that Greek life is one opportunity on campus for some students, and it can be a pathway to get involved in various student organizations on campus. But I would encourage you to talk to your student about trying out the different organizations, different opportunities, and to try to determine what might be the best fit for them. It may take a few different meetings and a few different involvement opportunities to kind of figure out what they're interested in. And that is okay. That is a part of the process. As Kyle, Mara, and Vika will all share with you, like many of us were involved in student organizations and we're student leaders. We all have our own pathways and experiences. And some of that involved trying out different things and learning where our fit was and where we could make an impact on campus. And I will add, I think that's something really special about IU is that our students we can make a great deal of an impact on campus in the area. And it's very student-driven campus, which is one of my favorite things about the university. So sorority and fraternity life, like I mentioned, we have 71 different student organizations that are sororities and fraternities that are part of the Office of Sorority and Fraternity Life, and will essentially register through our office as self-governing organizations. We have 4 different councils: the Interfraternity Council, which recently hosted their formal recruitment process, the Multicultural Greek Council, which provides space, governance, and a collection of organizations that focus on different multicultural backgrounds and organizations. The National Panhellenic Council, which are historically Black Greek letter organizations, the Divine Nine, and then our Panhellenic Association. They have 22 of our National Panhellenic Conference groups that are part of that group and will host their formal recruitment in the spring. We have about 9,000 students as of the end of spring semester that were a part of our community. A couple thousand of those students graduated, so that certainly changes. But as we do recruitment and have more students join, we will most likely kind of increase to that number again this spring. Much of the focus is on leadership development, service and philanthropy. We talk quite a bit with our students about brotherhood, sisterhood, accountability, and creating safe and healthy organizations. So, like I said, this is certainly one opportunity for involvement for students if they're interested in it. That can also be a pathway to getting involved in other organizations and groups. There are some housing related options as a part of fraternity and sorority life. And so if your student is interested in joining one of the house organizations, of which we have about 42 house student organizations and sororities and fraternities at IU, that may be an option for some students. We have about 3,500 students that live in Greek housing at IU. So you can go to the Office of Sorority and Fraternity Life website to learn more or to talk to your student about the different options for involvement. Like I said, it is one opportunity to get involved of our many different student organizations on campus.
So another way is through our recreational sports. These are all pictures from a number of our intramural teams. And I'm going to pop out of this presentation to show you all the different intramural teams we have. If you go to IU Rec Sports and look at their website, you'll see that there are a list of the different activities going on in intramurals, and you can sign up for them. You don't have to be on a team. You'll see, and I don't know if this is showing up right here, but this sounds very legit, but you can join as a team or as a free agent. So if you're alone and don't have a team, you can join another team. But you'll see that there are tons of different intramural opportunities, and those are just for the fall semester. So lots going on in intramurals. And if your student was in a sport in high school or middle school and want to continue, we also have club sports offerings. And you'll see on this page, again, we're on the Rec Sports page under Club Sport Directory. We have a number of club sports that participate and compete against Big Ten colleagues. They are not divisional sports, but they do compete. They do get trophies. So it's very similar to probably the high school experience and lots of different unique opportunities for involvement. Like we have an equestrian club, which I think is pretty unique and interesting, figure skating, ice hockey. So a number of offerings through club sports. And then we also have, and we'll jump back to our presentation, lots of group exercise classes. They have between 15 and 20 classes. Oh gosh, every day. So always something going on in rec sports and often ways to make connections with people, either just in a class. You go to the same class every Monday and you get to know the person doing yoga next to you, or you join a team and get to build the connections through a club sport or intramurals. A big shout out to intramurals, and they do this event called or activity called Battleship, and they will get in canoes in the pool and play like the game Battleship, but like in real life and in canoes. And so they have buckets and throw it into each other's canoe, and a pretty fun activity to participate in. If volunteering was part of your students' experience before they came to college, that is still an opportunity for them. We have IU Core, which hosts and organizes a number of volunteer opportunities. You'll see on their website, the lower part of this page, that they have centralized a number of the volunteer opportunities on campus in the community for students to easily find. There's also a student organization component to IU Core called Volunteer Core. So if your student is looking to be more involved in helping coordinate volunteer opportunities, as well as do them in a group experience, Volunteer Core may be a great place for them. And then student employment. It is an involvement that they get paid for. I want to suggest and offer this as an option for students who are looking for some income and some more flexibility. On campus jobs are often provided by staff like Leslie and I, who understand student schedules and create flexibility for students and pretty close to their classrooms where they're living, so make it a little bit easier. The student employment website also has internship opportunities listed for students to explore. As you'll see in the student employment page, as well as IU Core, both use a platform called Handshake. So students will create accounts to be able to see what volunteer opportunities are available, as well as different jobs and internships. I also wanted to highlight that there are a number of research opportunities on campus. I get the really cool part of my job is that I oversee the Senior Recognition Awards, and the number of students that I hear through that process that have had really unique and interesting research opportunities on campus is pretty cool. And so they usually build connections with a faculty member that they have had a class with, or they like their research and serve as a research assistant. And they get to have hands-on experience doing research, conducting research, analyzing it, all that. So some really unique opportunities on campus for that as well. So in addition to involvement, we have a number of, through like organizations, we have a bunch of our events and activities listed in a number of different ways, and wanted to share that with you all. You'll see this snapshot of different events, this floor dinner and trivia night. This comes from our Be Involved software. And so all of our student orgs submit their, and the residence halls as well, submit their events. And so students can look through different events. We have, I think, 900 events in this calendar right now. And that is only for like the next month or so. So I promise there is lots to do on this campus. We also have a dedicated page for student events. If you can see the URL at the top, it's go.iu.edu/student events. And these are events geared towards students and student-centered, often student organization events or events hosted by my office, Leslie, some of our colleagues, that are meant for students. And so this is a good place to check. Usually there's probably 10 or 15 things going on each day. So if your student is saying there's nothing to do, I promise there's tons. And then if they are still struggling figuring out like what is their avenue for involvement, we offer student involvement ambassadors. These are students who are involved, usually juniors, seniors, and they work in our club hub in our union, and they provide students the opportunity to have like one-on-one coaching to learn about what are the different involvement opportunities that I've shared, or that they could go into on specific ones, and what are their interests, and help them figure out what they'd want to be involved in. And so I have this page pulled up so you can see that there's the schedule an appointment button. If you click that, there'll be an involvement exploration time block, and students can schedule time with our involvement ambassadors when it meets their schedule. They can also drop in. So our office is open during work hours, and our involvement ambassadors work till 11 p.m. each night. So students can drop in, talk to one of their peers, and get a student's experience on what it's like to be involved, and help them navigate maybe what their first step is.
Awesome, great. So in terms of what students can expect when getting involved, there's so much opportunity for growth and development for student leaders, and we get to see that firsthand. And it's pretty amazing, especially when we see a first or second year student get to the point of a senior or graduation and to see how much they grow and have learned over their time. So we've already mentioned a lot of events such as call out meetings, different programs, different activities. And so there's a lot of events on campus, and then also the student organizations host quite a few events. So, and oftentimes those are on campus, some off campus, some in the community. So oftentimes event attendance, continual engagement is a piece of the involvement aspect. Many of our students will serve on committees or on teams and get to work with different student leaders. So if they're part of an organization, they might be appointed to a certain committee. I know our IU Dance Marathon organization has a number of different committees, be it morale, service, fundraising, marketing. I've worked with many students over the years who've served on different committees as a part of that organization. And then students can serve as chairs for the committees or on larger executive councils. And through leadership development opportunities, they'll be able to plan meetings, plan events, do goal setting as a group and help reach those goals. So it's that real world experience that we want to give them while they're also having fun, building relationships, and making meaning of what they're learning in the classroom through their student organizations and activities. And really developing teamwork, building connections, and some lifelong friends during their experience. In terms of leadership roles, that can certainly vary of what that looks like for each organization. Like I mentioned previously, that could be leading meetings, facilitating presentations, workshops, again, that real life experience that they will have in their organizations. Each organization must have a minimum of 5 members. And then we do have student leaders, presidents, various officers that are part of all of the organizations that the Student Involvement Leadership Center, our office, and the various office on campus that works with students connect with directly through those students involved in leadership roles. So again, serving in that opportunity, I think, helps make the campus smaller and makes meaning of the experiences and also helps apply what they're learning in the classroom to their experiences on campus. Oftentimes organizations will have membership expectations. So sometimes there might be fees associated with the involvement, dues, sometimes commitments of expectations of attending regular meetings. And oftentimes those are in place not only to fund the different activities, but also just to set expectations in terms of regular involvement and engagement in the various opportunities. And then really there's a wide variety of joining processes across various organizations and different ways to get involved. I know our IU Student Government has a internship program, which they've recently expanded beyond the first year. So there might be certain expectations for those students involved. As opposed to the Baked Potato Club or the Squirrel Watching Club or sorority and fraternity. So that could certainly look different. So those processes vary. And I recommend that you talk to your student about, encourage you to have them ask questions like, what is the commitment? What are the fees? What are the dues? What are the expectations of my involvement? Those are all things that they should ask throughout the process so that they know what they're getting into when they're joining and what those expectations are from them. And they can make a good decision as to what's a good fit for them and their involvement on campus. All right, in terms of other expectations of getting involved. So the Student Involvement Leadership Center is our umbrella organization for all organizations to register. Then there's other departments and different offices that may have additional policies, requirements, trainings, expectations. Many of our academic units have staff that provide support for the student organizations that are part of their units. The Kelley School of Business specifically has quite a few student organizations and a large student population. And so they have staff that we work closely with as campus partners who provide support for some of their organizations and groups. The Office of Sorority and Fraternity Life is another one that I oversee where we have additional policies, expectations, including trainings and programs as a part of that expectation. So there could be some that the student organizations take the lead on and say as self-governing, here's organizations, here's the things you need to do to be involved. And that's usually part of their bylaws and constitution and clear documentation about expectations. And then some might be related to offices. So it does vary. And again, it's important to ask questions throughout that process, throughout that joining process. Sororities and fraternities at IU are also, they're registered with the Office of Sorority and Fraternity Life. And for us, just want to share with you that they are limited to a 6-week new member process. So that's a part of our expectation in terms of initiation and what that process could look like. And that's just to provide some guidance and parameters around the new member experience to ensure it's healthy and safe. And then we also require additional prevention programs required of students in those organizations. So that enables us to give about 25% of the undergraduate population some additional higher level training for prevention, education, health, safety, brotherhood, sisterhood, and leadership development as well. All right, so in terms of expectations around joining, and so I encourage you to make sure that you're talking with their student about their experience, and we want them to join at a comfortable pace. So figuring out what that looks like for them. So the pace of joining should be comfortable for them, so should not be too strenuous. And then it's important their academics come first, and so that's a part of balancing that out. So if at some point find out that it's not a comfortable pace and they're not able to focus on their academics and their academic priorities and goals, and that might be a conversation you want to have with the student. Processes should also be honest and transparent. So students should know what they're getting themselves into, should be transparent. They should know what their expectations are throughout the process. And then it's important that the experiences that students have are respectful. We talk about this a lot, and we talk about the Indiana Promise, what it means to be a Hoosier. And respect is a central piece of our core. It's a part of the Culture of Care initiative that our students developed over 10 years ago as well. It's one of the key components of respectfulness. And so respecting one another, and that means all members of the organization. And so respect should be a core piece of that. And then it should be kind, should be fun, it should be a healthy experience. And we recognize that when students are involved in organizations, there might be conflicts, right? Like, we're human beings. We often have conflicts with each other. That's a part of the nature of being a person and a human. And so oftentimes we provide support to students as they walk through some of those conflicts. I know our colleagues in residence life and IU housing do the same. But so ensuring that those conflicts are healthy and that they can process through that and it's done in a healthy way. Talked a little bit about honesty and transparency earlier. I also think that trust is a huge piece of that. So making sure that they can trust the members, trust the organization, and also that they have independence, right? So it should not take up their whole identity. They are student first, part of the academic, focus of the institution, and they should have some independence also associated with joining their organizations. The experience should also be equitable. We talk about that a lot in terms of working with students and ensuring that we're looking at it with the lens of equity and the support that we provide students, and that should be the same. So no member should be expected to do more than others, and that it's all equitable in the process, and that it's responsible. And then I also mentioned fun. Like, that's the best part of our student organizations, fun, engaging, right? It's a learning experience and developing awesome relationships. We want to have students to have fun part of their experience at IU. All right, so then we also wanted to talk a little bit about signs of unhealthy joining experiences, and mostly because we see family and parent members as key partners with us, right? Like, you're there to be able to provide support to your students. You're aware of things that are happening in terms of how your student's doing. And so for us, it's critical that they have a healthy joining experience. And so these are just some general signs that we've kind of identified and want you to be aware of. And it could be that some of these things are not necessarily related to not having a healthy joining experience. But you as family members, you know your student better than most other folks. And so you can be aware, you can check in on them, you can identify when there's a concern, right? And so we want our students to have healthy experiences, to engage in positive conflict resolution, problem solving, and to have a positive experience at IU and their organization. So going off of that, in terms of general signs of concern, so as a family member, we're going to talk here at the end kind of about resources and some action steps and what you can do. Paying attention to your student. I know it's hard when they're far away, especially if this is one of their first times away from home. I know that you probably, as family members, vary in terms of involvement and the year in school that your student is in. But again, you can pay attention and provide them with support. So here's just some general signs. Mara mentioned earlier, sometimes we hear students say, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get involved. There's nothing going on. There are tons of things going on. Encourage them to find a friend and take a friend with them, be it to a yoga class or an event on campus. So if a student says that they don't have anything to do, That might mean that they're feeling lonely, having a hard time getting connected. They might not know which organization to join. So again, talk them through that, provide them with support and guidance through that, and help them get connected to resources. I will say one story from my experience with my mom is that at one point when I became an adult, so this is more like in my mid-20s, I was calling her for help and calling her just to talk and vent. I think that was probably at the moment. She said, "So do you want advice or do you just want me to listen?" And it was perfect that my mom said that, because it's like, oh, like I just want you to listen in that moment. So as a parent, family member, you're going to have more resources walking away from this. You might want to say, oh, you might want to send a text and say, here's all the things that you can do. Here's the links to the website. Let me help you get involved. Fill that out, assess that out with your student, figure out what the vibe is, as our students like to say these days. What's the vibe? And try to figure out what that is, what is that they need from you, and maybe put in your pocket for later. In terms of general signs of concerns, there's tons of things to do. We're here to help get students connected and kind of suss it out and feel where you might want to kind of push them or encourage them to try new things. Other signs of concern, because sometimes it can be hard, the transition can be hard. We are in week 4 of the semester, and this is when students have exams, tests, they might be studying late at night. So sometimes a sign of concern might be that they're not sleeping, their general hygiene, overall well-being. It might not mean that there's a bigger problem happening. It could just mean that they're struggling with time management, they're stressed out. So that's a good sign of concern in terms of support, and that might be something where you might want to check in and see how they're doing. Overcommitment can also be a challenge. So ensuring that their involvement can balance with their academics. I know that some students are involved in student organizations, are working 15 to 20 hours a week, are going to classes. It can vary. And then some organizations might have more expectations of students, but they really need to be able to focus on their academics and prioritize that. So overcommitment can vary. It could be that the organization is asking a great deal of them, or it could be that they are overcommitting themselves. And that's a habit you might want to talk them through to figure out how do they balance that themselves. If their grades and academics are suffering, that is certainly a concern. And then if they're isolating themselves from others. So not just you, I know sometimes involvement and communication changes with students when they come to college, but if they're isolating themselves from their friends and separating themselves, that might be a time when you might be concerned. So as I keep going through, just in terms of, feel free to put in the chat for Kyle, even just how you're doing. If you have any questions, all those kinds of things, as we're continuing to talk about resources and support. So one resource we talk a lot about, especially when it comes to orientation and support, and this is a central place you can go to support your student beyond the involvement, information, getting connected, is our care referral process. So we have a form that's available online where anybody can submit a care referral for a student. So if there's academic concerns, you're concerned about personal issues, health or well-being issues, you can submit a care referral for a student. They can submit one as well for another friend or for themselves. And so that care referral gets routed. It gets shared with a care team that we have on campus, and then somebody will reach out to offer support and resources. So if you're concerned about your student, or you think that they're struggling, need some additional support, the care referral is, I would say, the place to go as the initial place to get your student connected to resources and support. All right, so action steps and what's next. So it's always important for us to give you things that you can do in addition to all the information that you have. Check in with your student, check in with them regularly. If you're here to visit for family weekends next weekend, go Hoosiers. That's a great time to check in, ask how they're doing. Certainly if you can come to Bloomington another time to visit, but FaceTime, phone calls, texts, all those things, checking with them is great. We intentionally wanted to have this webinar before family weekend because we know some of you might come, and that might be an opportunity to ask your student how they're doing, have them show you around campus, where they're involved in, where they're hanging out, all those types of things. It's a great place to learn more about the community, and hopefully you'll attend the football game while you're here. But we also have tons of opportunities on campus and in Bloomington as well. And then the Office of Student Life website, we gave you a whole list of resources, but that is our central website to learn more about involvement and different opportunities for engagement and campus resources on campus. Next week is one of our big awareness weeks we have on campus, which is National Hazing Prevention Week. So if you want to learn more about that or initiatives around healthy engagement opportunities, there's our website as well. The last thing I want to share are just some general resources. Mara is the director of the Student Involvement and Leadership Center. I'm the assistant dean and director for the Office of Sorority and Fraternity Life. And then here's some other key resources as well. We share these regularly in addition to the care referral and the Dean of Students office with our family members, because we want you to be armed and aware of resources available to students on campus. So with that, we want to thank you for joining us this evening. I'll turn it over to Kyle in case we have any questions in the chat.
Yeah, we do. So like Leslie just said, I will encourage everyone to drop your questions in the chat if you got them. We have one as of now, so I'll ask that, and then like I said, just drop your questions there, and we'll get to them live here. So the one question we've got is: my son applied for 3 work-study jobs in the rec center in August and hasn't heard back yet, and is feeling a little frustrated. Any advice for that student?
I guess so one thing we can do is share that feedback along with our colleagues in rec sports. So we will let them know that we're aware that a student has applied for a job and hasn't heard back. So we can certainly pass that along. I would also say looking at other job opportunities. I know Mara shared the Handshake website. There's also jobs at IU as well as jobs in the community. So if your student is interested in other opportunities as well, encourage you to kind of connect them and have them, continue to interview, because I don't know where they're at in the hiring process in terms of rec sports. If they've not followed up with rec sports, they could certainly send an email, introduce themselves, say they're really interested in working there as well, and follow up that way.
I tell you what, I will drop my email in the chat too. So if anyone has any specific questions, I know that I see anonymous questions in the chat, but I'm happy to follow up with anyone kind of on a one-on-one basis and connect with our colleagues in rec sports as well. So there's my email in the chat if it's helpful with anyone.
They do sort of like mass hiring. And so maybe there was like a miss during that mass hiring for your student. So I know they do it sort of at a regular basis, but it's sort of at like set times at the beginning and ends of semester. So that may be part of it. But definitely, I think Kyle's a great resource to check in and help your student navigate that.
Got one more question. So is there an office at the union to go to for work study jobs? My son missed job fair day.
Well, not a dedicated office, but any of the staff in the union would love to have some more student employees. So I also work as part of the union. We'd love to have your student work in any number of our different areas, be it our food service areas. I know those can be popular, especially Starbucks. Our bowling and billiards area, we do a ton of different programs. So we would be happy to look at your student's application. Probably the best bet would be to stop by our office. So it could be at the Club Hub, which is on the first floor of the Union. Follow the signs. It's near the Wittenberger Auditorium, or they can drop by the second floor of the Student Involvement Tower, and that's where my office is. We have a drop-in culture, so so if students come in, we will, whatever staff is available, we will jump in to help.
I appreciate that, Mara. Do you have anything else to add, Leslie? I think I cut you off.
I was just going to say that job openings will pop up throughout the year and then throughout their time. So if they interview and it's not the right fit at the right time, like encourage them to go back, make them like share a name if you do drop in that the student is interested. I know that there's students who I think told us maybe 6 months ago, so like last academic year, that they were interested in opportunities. We didn't have any openings at that time. But there's one student I can think of who we hired in the spring for one role and then hired him again this summer for a second role starting this fall. So I'd say encourage them to make themselves known, put themselves out there. Us getting to know students as well and that they're interested means we can connect them with different opportunities as well.
Right. Check that question off. Another question that folks have asked is, my student emailed some leaders from the Be Involved site about meetings but hasn't heard back. Are those contacts accurate? And do you guys maybe have any advice on how to get a hold of student leaders or faculty or staff advisors for different clubs?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. sometimes our students, you may experience this with your own student, they are sometimes not the best at answering emails. So I would recommend checking if they have upcoming meetings and be involved and just see if they can join an upcoming meeting. I maybe one of my other recommendations would be to look at the different officers, and if there is a membership officer or um, maybe something more internal focused to the organization, that role tends to be more responsive than maybe the president if they reached out to the president. You can always stop by the Club Hub, that space I mentioned before in the first floor of the union, and our student organization coordinator works there, and she can help your student. You can also schedule a meeting with her, the same place I showed you all for involvement ambassadors. You can schedule a meeting with her and ask how they can go about meeting with that student organization. Maybe an email from McKenna, our student org advisor, might spur some student to respond.
And I'll add, so the organizations re-register annually, and so they had to do that this year. So the presidents and contact information should be accurate because they just had to register through the Student Involvement Leadership Center. So they should be accurate. At least the chapter president or leader definitely is, because they're the one who's expected to complete that information. I would also recommend checking their Instagram account and social media. Many of our organizations have information on there. It may be easier just to DM somebody or chat through that account as opposed through email. Our students get a lot of emails. And so I think texting, chatting in other ways, I think is often their preferred method of communication. And Mara mentioned earlier call out meetings. So checking, be involved, upcoming events, and attending a call out meeting, getting to know somebody face to face. Putting a face with a name is a great opportunity. So it depends on the organization involvement, but they could get a large number of emails and have a hard time fielding that. So the call out meetings, and then Instagram. I know Panhellenic Recruitment. Anybody interested in registering for Panhellenic Recruitment? Their website was down for a couple weeks as they were rebuilding it. It relaunched yesterday. Apparently it went global because a lot of people were waiting on it, but they were putting information on Instagram, and that was their method of communication. So certainly varies by organization. Sometimes organizations will also switch officers during the year at different times. So that can sometimes be a challenge. So again, persistence, checking in, attending events, I think is key.
All right, that's the extent of our questions. And you both answered that question perfectly, because I was going to contribute as a former student leader who fielded those kind of questions. Perfect response there. And I would just say, try everything. Go to the meetings, send emails, send DMs. I know that it's certainly a challenge sometimes, but we're also always here to help. So if staff can help assist in facilitating those conversations, like I said, my email's in the chat, and I know that Mara and Leslie and their staff is also excited to help facilitate those too. So we don't have any more questions right now. I'm happy to stay on for just a few more minutes. If anyone has one, we have a couple thank yous. So again, thank you to Mara and Leslie for your presentation. But yeah, happy to stay on for just a second or two. Other questions, feel free to forward those to my email that I dropped in the chat. We will post this recording of our presentation on the Office of Student Life website. So you can just type in IU Office of Student Life Parent Engagement. We have a whole collection of these that we'll be building throughout the year. So if you can't attend at a later date, we'll also include those sessions online as well. And the PowerPoint will be on the website. So I think with that, we're good to go. We don't have any more questions. So I will end the call. Thanks again, Mara and Leslie. We appreciate you. And go Hoosiers. Thanks, everybody.